Hi there, welcome back. This is Paul Campbell again. In this tutorial, we are going to be talking about how to build alternative keyword lists. So just like in a previous tutorial, we talked about that Coke can as an example of coming up with alternative keywords. We have to do the same thing with our particular research question, whatever it might be. That Coke can, as we discussed, many people call it different things. Some people call it Coke, pop, soda, whatever. Same thing with our research questions. So if I were to have my fake research question here, this is just an example. I'm not saying it's particularly good, but it will serve the purpose of this particular exercise here. So what are effective non-pharmacological therapies for PTSD in veterans? I wish I could just copy and paste this question as it is, like you would in Google, but in our library databases. And most often you would get either total garbage back or it would just error out because the database doesn't know what you want. So what we have to do is we have to break up our question into the main components or main concepts in order to be effective at finding the research that we want. So if I were to take a highlighter and highlight the main ideas of this question, the first one would probably be non-pharmacological therapies. The second one I would add is PTSD. And then lastly, I would add the word veterans. So those are the three main concepts of what I'm trying to get at with this particular research question. Now, some people will say, well, why didn't I do the word effective? That is because effective is just the word effective or the concept of effective is just inherent in that particular question or inherent in the literature that you find. If we typed into PsycInfo these three main concepts, the literature or each article will discuss the effectiveness of that particular therapy. So that's like the whole point of doing scholarly research is you're trying to find effective or deciding that something is not effective. So the next thing we need to do is come and make a little table in which we can put each of the little words here, and so we come up with alternative different ways of saying the same thing. And I've already done it here to save time for this tutorial, but there are many different types of non-pharmacological therapy. These are just the ones that came readily to my brain here. So acupuncture, art, or music therapy, talk or group therapy, maybe cognitive therapy might be a better one. Service animals, and lastly, but not least certainly, is outdoor or nature therapy, going hiking and utilizing the wonders of nature in order to help relieve some of the symptoms of PTSD. Again, this is not comprehensive of the non-pharmacological therapies. It's just some of them. PTSD, we need to come up with different ways of saying the same thing, so it might be better just to write out the whole acronym, so post-traumatic stress disorder, or you can even do the old-fashioned way of talking about PTSD, which was that bottom one there, shell shock. It's somewhat offensive now, but it might be, you would never use that in modern day times, but that term might be in the literature that you're looking at, sadly. So you also, in the middle three terms there, the manifestations or the symptoms of PTSD might be flashbacks or depression or anxiety, so that might be a different way of getting at that particular concept. And then lastly, veterans. We need to look at different ways of talking about veterans, so maybe soldiers or maybe the different types of veterans, so seamen, airmen, Marines. Veterans might have PTSD from war, for example, or from combat. And then another broader term might be just military. So the purpose of this is I could start my research by doing non-pharmacological therapies and PTSD and veterans, and I may or I may not get the research that I'm looking for. So I may want to put in art and post-traumatic stress disorder and combat, or service animals and depression and soldiers, for example. So there's many different roads to get to what you want to get at. Don't think that just because you put in these three terms that you're going to get all of the research that you want. Again, some researchers might call it veterans. Some might be calling it combat soldiers, for example. So just have an open mind as to what to call something, and remember, you're trying to find the language that the database is trying to use.